Mia Farrow, once the very definition of Hollywood beauty, has lived a life no screenwriter could have imagined. From her haunting performance in Rosemary's Baby to her controversial relationship with Woody Allen, Farrow stands as living proof of the complexity behind the silver screen. Few know that while audiences admired her on film, she was silently enduring suffocating control and unbearable pressure from those she worked with. These never-before-seen private photos reveal a completely different Mia Farrow, fierce, defiant, and deeply enigmatic. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Grab yourself a warm drink, maybe a cup of tea or just water, and sit back as we begin this journey together. Mia Farrow was born on February 9th, 1945 inches Los Angeles, into a family steeped in Hollywood tradition. Her father, John Farrow, was an Oscar-winning director, and her mother, Maureen O'Sullivan, was the beloved actress who played Jane in the Tarzan films. From a young age, Mia was surrounded by the glitter of show business. She grew up amidst film parties and under the watchful eyes of a strict Catholic family with 6 siblings, where every smile or glance seemed like a tiny performance. Farrow often entertained her parents and guests. Sometimes, even tour buses would stop outside their mansion just to glimpse the movie star family. But her life soon took a tragic turn. At 9, during a polio outbreak that swept through Los Angeles, Mia contracted the disease. 3 weeks in isolation at the hospital, cut off from her family, left a lasting scar. She later said that was the moment her childhood ended. After recovering, Mia became quiet, introspective, and carried a deep sense of fragility and loss. At just 2 years old, she appeared in a short documentary film. By 13, she had a small role in John Paul Jones, directed by her father. The world of cinema seemed wide open to her, but it was also where her deepest sorrows would unfold. In 1958, her older brother Michael died, plunging the family into chaos. Her father turned to alcohol and violence, and nightly arguments filled their home. When Mia was only 17, John Farrow died of a heart attack, leaving a void that would haunt her forever. To help her mother, who worked on Broadway to support the family, Mia began modelling. With her ethereal beauty, blonde hair, and dreamy expression, she quickly attracted attention. Her big break came in 1964, when she was cast as Alison Mackenzie in the hit TV series Peyton Place. Running for over 250 episodes, the show made her a national television star, while her co-star Ryan O'Neal became a 1,960 heartthrob. Yet behind the scenes, Hollywood's glamour masked a web of complicated relationships and emotional tolls. At 21, Mia met Frank Sinatra, the legendary crooner nearly 30 years her senior. Amid Hollywood's dazzle and gossip, their romance was hailed as a fairy tale. They married in 1966, and Mia instantly became a media sensation. But behind the glamour, the marriage was suffocating. Sinatra demanded that she abandon her career and stay away from film sets. Out of love, she agreed, leaving Peyton Place at the height of her fame. All of America was stunned. Why would a rising star give it all up? The answer was simple: for love. But the cost of that love was losing herself. However, fate opened a door that changed the entire course of her life. The film Rosemary's Baby, Roman Polanski's masterpiece of psychological horror, didn't just bring Farrow fame, it took away everything she once believed in. After marrying Frank Sinatra in 1966, Farrow chose to step back from her career, becoming the devoted wife of a music legend at the height of his stardom. 2 years of living in a luxurious mansion surrounded by glittering parties and private jets seemed like a dream every woman would envy. But for her, it was suffocating. Tired of a life confined to kitchens and her husband's schedule, Mia accepted the offer to star in Rosemary's Baby. When she cut her hair into a short pixie style for the role, Sinatra was furious, saying she had destroyed the image of the wife he wanted. The distance between them grew wider. Then, in the middle of filming, a letter arrived on set, a cold divorce notice from Frank Sinatra. No one could have imagined that one role would end a marriage so quickly. At one point, Farrow considered quitting to save their relationship, but a studio executive told her, "If you stay, you'll become a legend." She stayed, And although Rosemary's Baby didn't win her an Oscar, it turned Mia Farrow into a new Hollywood icon, a fragile yet resilient woman who dared to walk through pain and keep going. She received numerous award nominations and critical acclaim, and the Academy's decision to overlook her performance became one of cinema's most famous injustices. Ironically, Sinatra had once planned to cast her in his passion project, The Detective, but when the schedules clashed, he replaced her with actress Jacqueline Boutet and never looked back. Years later, Farrow admitted that during her time with Sinatra, she was still a naive girl, not yet mature enough to understand that love cannot survive in the shadow of power and fame. After their breakup, they never completely severed ties. Many years later, when Sinatra passed away in 1998, Farrow still called him an old friend. I once loved deeply. Rosemary's Baby had saved her career, and through its pain, it made her grow. From then on, she chose a more serious artistic path, working alongside greats like Elizabeth Taylor, Robert Mitchum, and Dustin Hoffman. But the real turning point came in 1971, when Mia Farrow became the first American actress to join London's Royal Shakespeare Company. A rare accomplishment for anyone. Amid the rising wave of feminism, she proved that a woman could be beautiful, intelligent, and intellectually strong all at once. Throughout the 1970, she devoted herself to the stage, delving into complex, introspective roles, and gradually becoming a familiar face in Europe's elite theatre circles. Yet, Farrow's life was never short of unexpected turns. Though raised in a strict Catholic household, she became deeply drawn to transcendental meditation. In 1968, she studied under Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and by coincidence, her classmates included all four members of the Beatles, singer Donovan, Mike Love of the Beach Boys, and her sister Prudence Farrow, the very inspiration behind John Lennon's famous song, Dear Prudence. After all that, Farrow sought love again, this time with world-renowned composer Andre Pan. But the story was far from peaceful. When their romance began, Previn was still married. His second wife, Dory, discovered the affair, and when Farrow became pregnant with twins in 1969, everything collapsed. Previn left his family to be with Farrow, and the two married in 1970. She was only 25 and he was 41. Dory Previn, heartbroken and betrayed, wrote the haunting song Beware of Young Girls, a lyrical dagger aimed straight at Farrow's heart. The song bitterly accused Mia Farrow, suggesting that the two women had once been friends until Farrow carried out a dark, calculated plan. During her marriage to Andre Previn, Farrow had 3 biological children, twin boys, Matthew and Sasha, and a son, Fletcher. In addition, they adopted 3 children, Lorkong and Sumersong, both from Vietnam, and Suni from South Korea. While each of these children changed Farrow's life in profound ways, Sununi would ultimately leave the deepest scar. In the final verse of Beware of Young Girls, Dory Previn ended with a chilling line. She'll leave you one day without a word. Just quietly go away. Whether that prophecy proved true or not, the fact remained. Farrow and Previn eventually divorced. After 9 years together, they went their separate ways in 1979. Not long after, Farrow entered the most controversial relationship of her life with filmmaker Woody Allen. Though they never married, their partnership lasted 13 years. 13 fateful years. Early in their relationship, Farrow adopted 2 more children as a single mother. Moses Farrow, a Korean boy with cerebral palsy, and Dylan, adopted when she was just 2 weeks old. Later, both children were co-adopted by Woody Allen, and the couple also had 1 biological son together, Satchel Ronan O'Sullivan Farrow, later known simply as Ronan Farrow. Farrow's relationship with Woody Allen brought her immense artistic success, as she appeared in a long string of his films and became his cinematic muse. Their collaboration began with A Midsummer Night's Sex comedy 1982. The lead female role was originally written for Diane Keaton, Woody Allen's former lover, but ultimately went to Mia Farrow. From that moment, Allen seemed to have found his new muse. In Broadway, Danny Rose, 1984, Farrow stunned audiences by transforming into a rough-edged Italian woman with a heavy accent. A remarkable performance that earned her a Golden Globe nomination. Across 13 films together, they created one of Hollywood's most unique partnerships. A mix of artistic brilliance and emotional complexity. Yet behind the camera, a storm was quietly forming. Their final film together, Husbands and Wives, 1992, mirrored their crumbling reality. They played a couple torn apart by infidelity, an eerily prophetic reflection as that same year, their real-life relationship would collapse in unimaginable ways. In January 1992, Mia Farrow uncovered a devastating secret. While visiting Alan's apartment, just a few blocks from her own near Central Park, she discovered a stack of nude photographs of Sununyi Praven, the adopted daughter she had raised long before meeting Alan. When confronted, Alan admitted he and Suni had been in a sexual relationship for 2 weeks. The revelation cut through Farrow like a knife. She immediately ended their relationship, while Alan claimed they had already broken up and insisted he had never been a father figure in Sunsi's life. Sununi was only 21 at the time, and although both tried to argue that their relationship began when she was an adult, the public saw it as a shocking betrayal. The tabloids exploded, and Hollywood was shaken to its core. The story of the genius director in love with his adopted daughter became one of the most scandalous controversies of the 1990. But the tragedy didn't end there. Just a few months later, an even more shocking accusation shook the world. In August 1992, Farrow revealed that her 7-year-old daughter Dylan had told her she was sexually abused by Woody Allen during one of his visits. Farrow immediately contacted the police. When Alan learned about the accusation through their therapist, he struck back, claiming that Mia was psychologically manipulating the child as revenge for the Sunsi scandal. From that moment, a brutal legal battle began. Alan filed for custody of all 3 children, Dylan, Moses, and Satchel, later known as Ronan Farrow. Mia countersued both to protect her children and to revoke Alan's adoption rights. The media followed every courtroom detail, and both sides were forced to expose their darkest corners. Alan faced intense moral scrutiny, while Mia was accused of being a controlling and temperamental mother. In the end, the court denied Alan's request and granted full custody to Mia Farrow. Prosecutors later dropped criminal charges to spare Dylan further trauma, though the case file remained full of unanswered questions. The court also rejected Mia's request to terminate Alan's adoption, meaning that legally he remained the father of Dylan and Moses. After the trial, their worlds split completely apart. Mia continued raising her large family, 14 children in total, 10 adopted and 4 biological. She became a symbol of perseverance, dedicating her life to humanitarian work and to caring for abandoned children across the world. Yet not all of them stood by her side. Soon Yi married Woody Allen in 1997, cutting all ties with her adoptive mother. Moses Farrow, once deeply close to Mia, publicly defended Allen and accused Mia of emotional abuse toward her children. Meanwhile, Ronan Farrow, her biological son, who had witnessed everything, became one of her strongest defenders, and later a Pulitzer-winning journalist, exposing sexual abuse scandals across Hollywood. But even after the war with Woody Allen ended, tragedy continued to haunt Mia's family. Beginning in 2000, 3 of her 10 adopted children passed away. Tam Farrow died of heart failure in 2000. Lark Preven, her Vietnamese-born daughter, died on Christmas Day in 2008 after battling an illness related to HIV. And in 2016, Thaddeus Farrow took his own life. In 2018, when the world thought the Farrow-Allen controversy had finally faded into silence, Mia's adopted son, Moses Farrow, reignited the storm with a series of shocking blog posts. In them, he not only defended Woody Allen, whom Mia had long accused of molesting their adopted daughter Dylan, but also revealed disturbing details about the deaths of his siblings. Moses claimed that Tam, one of the adopted children, died of cardiac arrest caused by a drug overdose, while Lark, another sibling, had been destroyed by substance addiction. The revelations left the public stunned. In what was once considered Hollywood's most compassionate family, how many secrets had been buried behind closed doors? Yet, amid the chaos, there was still a glimmer of hope. Ronan Farrow, Mia's only biological child with Woody Allen. Growing up in the centre of public scrutiny, witnessing the storm surrounding his parents, Ronan forged his own path and became a fearless investigative journalist. It was he who spearheaded the exposé on Harvey Weinstein, igniting the Me Too movement and transforming Hollywood forever. He became living proof that even those raised in pain can use their voice to fight for justice. In contrast to her personal tragedies, Mia Farrow has since chosen the path of compassion. She has distanced herself from the glitter of Hollywood and devoted much of her life to humanitarian work across Africa. As a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, she has travelled thousands of miles to conflict zones like Darur, bringing medicine, food, and hope to children living amid war. Mia once said, "I know what fear feels like, and I don't want any child in the world to live with that feeling again." She knew it well because she had lived it. At just 9 years old, Mia contracted polio, a disease that stole the childhood of countless children of her generation. She spent months in the hospital, weak and unable to move her legs. The trauma left a lifelong mark, inspiring her later to join the global fight to eradicate polio. In a cruel twist of fate, one of her adopted sons, Thaddeus, was also paralysed and confined to a wheelchair. When Thaddeus died, Mia said just one haunting sentence: "My son fought harder than anyone I've ever known." Mia Farrow's life has been more than a string of family tragedies. She also endured the loss of one of her closest friends, actress Sharon Tate. The two were pregnant at the same time in 1969, sharing dreams of motherhood and new beginnings. But when Sharon was brutally murdered by the Manson family, Mia was shattered. Tate's death not only robbed her of a dear friend, but also planted a deep, lingering fear in her heart. A fear of fate itself, of what it means to be both famous and fragile in a world that can turn cruel in an instant. And then, fate once again tested Mia when she took part in Roman Polanski's classic Rosemary's Baby, the film that catapulted her to fame but almost cost her life. In one scene, Polanski demanded that Mia, who was pregnant at the time, walk straight into a real street packed with speeding cars. When she hesitated, he coldly replied, "No one's going to hit a pregnant woman." That moment wasn't just a scene in a movie. It became a symbol of Mia's entire life. A woman brave enough to walk through danger, willing to risk everything for her art and her beliefs. Since then, even as Hollywood has changed, the name Mia Farrow continues to evoke something unique. A woman both saintly and sorrowful, strong yet fragile. She loved some of the most powerful men in Hollywood, endured public scandals and betrayals, and was cast into the darkest corners of judgment. Yet, she never stopped standing back up. Perhaps in those sad blue eyes, traces of her darkest days still linger. But within them also shines a light. The light of faith, compassion, and an unbreakable spirit. From a little girl crippled by polio to a cinematic icon, from a single mother battling scandal to a voice for the voiceless, Mia Farrow has proven that the greatest strength lies not in fame or fortune, but in the ability to transform pain into empathy. If life were a movie, Mia Farrow would be the character audiences could never forget. The woman who once stepped fearlessly into oncoming traffic and then one day stepped out of her own shadows. Heat. Heat.